Welcome to this week's edition of Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield. A variety of things that we are going to check out in this market for the cattle this week, including looking at the formula prices for the cattle. Was there a big push, and was it because we're getting so current in the north because we've been keeping the south current, or what's really going on behind it? And as we know, COVID has had the continued effect in this cattle market, but there's a couple of other variety of factors we look at during this mid-December. And joining me today is Brad Kooima. Brad is with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. And let's start out this. Let's look at these fundamentals. What are your thoughts, Brad, as to what we're seeing in the trade?
Okay, well, you've got, I guess maybe I'll lead with this. You've got a bit of a two-tiered cash market where the North has slipped into a situation where we're not quite as current as we ought to be. And I really don't believe that it's not so much that the producer up here in the North, has made some concerted effort to get stubborn and fight the market. We've got a couple of things there. I think we've had, first of all, it's been very, very difficult for us to get a lot of bids. I'm in the cash market every week, and there are weeks here where it's unless you got a 1,300-pound heifer, it's hard to get a bid. And so you go another week. And then you have a situation as well where this is probably going to go down as arguably the best feeding weather we've had in a fall here in a long, long time. I mean, literally, we've had a couple inches of snow for the whole season and haven't had anything for a long time. So these cattle are outperforming expectations, sometimes 75 to 100 pounds above what expectations have been. So we've got these cattle a little bigger than they like, and they've been tough on that, buying those bigger kind of cattle. So like last week, Friday, there was cleanup trade, Susan, in Texas, and generally cleanup trade isn't exactly on the high quality cattle, right? They were getting 108 at the same time that I was getting bid 103 on Friday. And so, yeah, is it easy to sell them at 103 then? It sure isn't, because it doesn't seem like you're getting a competitive bid. So we need to get ourselves a little more current. And if we could maybe slow down that stream of formula cattle, that would force the packer or allow the packer to be a little more open to bidding on some negotiated cattle. That would help. The formula price disparity again is huge. Last week, according to LMR, according to the USDA, the average formula price received was 114.74 average, compared to if you were a cash negotiator, your average price was not quite 106.
That's a big price difference in the end.
It's like $130 a head or more, depends what they weigh.
And that definitely adds up.
Yeah, it's a lot. Obviously, you've heard me. This is the fight I fight in terms of being try to be a little bit of an activist within the cattle business. I get it; it's a free country, but it seems to me like this is now working to the detriment of the guy that is a cash negotiator when he's unable to secure a bid at all. So that's that story. You asked me the raw fundamentals. We just saw a big break in the beef. I'm not going to dwell on that because I don't know that the beef price has anything to do, frankly, Susan, with what we're getting for cash cattle anyway. Even with the big break in the beef, the packer's probably still looking at $200 to $300 a head profit. Poor guys coming off of having probably a $500 a head profit there for a while. You've read the statistics that the Packers made more money in the last 2 years than he's made in the last 25 combined, stuff like that. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I just, you read that, right? It's on the internet, must be right. Haha. Anyway, but there's no question, right, that this has been a weird time. And so on the box beef front, I would say we're probably close to that correction being over with. I think the box beef will hold someplace around 205, maybe even a little bit better than that. What I'm being told though is we've got this uncertainty about what's going to happen next, and that's because of COVID, Susan. Normally, we would expect big Christmas parties, office parties, holiday, family, New Year's Eve, whatever, right?
Okay. Sounds good.
And obviously, that probably has to look different this year with COVID. Now, we also would go into a time frame here where typically the weather might get stressy, where the cattle don't perform as well. Well, right now, it still looks like a pretty wide open forecast. That can change. But so I would say that the fundamental makeup is now, let's see how our demand really is as we move into January. And I'd like to think that it's going to prove to be the same as we did when we were in July and August. in that we're going to look back and go, holy cow, these people still like to eat beef. They don't have to go to a restaurant and spend $100. They can probably prepare that as good or better than a lot of restaurants, and they don't have that extra stuff on their bill, right? So I'd like to think we're really, really close to the next time you and I are talking, and we're talking about this thing feels better, because I think we've done some good things this week in the north in terms of cleaning up the cattle. So I'd like to think the fundamentals are, but sometimes that's like turning that big ship around. It just doesn't spin. It takes a little bit. But I'd like to think going into New Year, things will feel a little bit better.
Are you getting the feel as you talk to the people that you talk to that maybe our grocery meat counter movement is going to pick up because of those gatherings aren't going to take place, those Christmas parties aren't taking place, so let's just go to our local shop?
I think that's a well said and a great point. I think so. That's what certainly happened this summer. Now, summertime is long days, right? Stays light. It's easy to stand in your backyard and light your grill. I grilled last night, and I'm going to grill again tonight. There's some of us that do that year round. Maybe not everyone. But even if you don't have to grill it. That's one thing about this setback in the box beef here now that actually is kind of well timed, because all of a sudden now you take back this thing to where you can advertise these New York strips and T-bones and ribeyes and stuff to where it's really probably going to price its way pretty good into consumption. In other words, where it's going to look like it's got value, right? Not a $12.99 ribeye, but a $6.99 ribeye, right? So I'm speculating here, of course, but I think that you're going to find out how we've moved the needle. Used to be a 65-35 deal retail and a hotel restaurant. I think you've moved that needle. Some people say 8%, some people as much as 10%. And once you kind of get used to something, and you have a tendency to kind of keep doing it if you get used to cooking that steak on your own. That's what I'd like to hope for.
All right, before we wrap up, Cattle on Feed report comes out later this week. What are your thoughts?
Lighter placements and should be pretty good marketing. So we've had a pretty good kill schedule here right along. The guesses, to me, the guesses are livable. We're talking about 100% on feed. Why do we have to be so much worse than yesterday than last year if we got the same amount of cattle? Placement's going to be down a long ways, I believe. So, I think that the report has a better, it's always as compared to the guesses, of course, but to me, the report will have a better chance to help us rather than hurt us.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, Brad, for joining us this week. That's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield. Enjoy the rest of your week.